early, but given that we're going straight into executive session, any concerns with us starting 4 minutes early?
Yes, you noticed it for 7, so we can't start till then.
That's why I was asking. Thank you.
So Ed, are we ever going to see you in person?
Oh, ever's a long time.
Okay.
I would say yes, but coronavirus is pretty high on our list of concerns right now.
Well, just remember, at some point, we may think you're just a computer animation.
Not unless I continue to throw out 2001 movie references.
Yeah, that's true. And actually, it wasn't a 2000 and you got to wait. That's the year you're talking about, or what? No, I'm
No,
just
it's a
kidding.
movie.
You know, my son wanted to see that thing. It came on. He goes, "I've never seen it," and I'm like, "I have. Let's watch something else." And he said, "No, Dad, let's watch it." And I said, "Fine." And after the psychedelic 20-minute right before he ends up in the bedroom in the very end. Yeah. About halfway through that, he's like, "Does it ever end?" And I'm like, "It does, but it feels like it doesn't."
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I have a friend who read the book and said the last 2 pages of the book are just like that. Weird.
How could you put that into writing?
I haven't ever picked it up to look, but that's what he said.
I mean, let's be honest. As I described it to somebody, the whole show is basically, it's like mimes moving in slow motion. The whole show is just,
and send it to you.
even when they're not in space, it's just a slow move. And then why does the little space pod, when they were working on the antenna at the end, why does it have to park like 500 yards from the antenna?
I don't know.
I mean, it's like the guy leaves a little pod and starts going towards the antenna, and for 15 minutes you see him floating towards the antenna with silence, and you're like,
It's pretty slow moving.
somebody was tripping.
Yeah.
The whole show was filler.
Time being 7 p.m., we are convened into special meeting. Closed session. Town council to convene into closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551, Section 551.071 and 551.074 to discuss matters relating to consultation with town attorney and personnel as follows. Item number 1, consultation with town attorney regarding ordinance 690-20 declaring a local state of disaster due to public health emergency. Item number 2, consultation with town attorney regarding legal issues related to the town's extraterritorial jurisdiction. Item number 3, deliberate and consider the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of public officials or employees, to wit, town administrator, town secretary, and chief of police. Time being 7:01, we are convened into closed session. Please switch us over on Zoom. For those of you that are on the Zoom sessions, we will not reconvene back into open session until at the earliest 7:30.
I was talking about the Pilatus,
Oh, the Pilates, it's just,
and I think Pilatus, I think you can get it down to 45 gallons an hour. I think you can get it that low. And maybe
it's not
60.
something, it's not just you buy it, it's the flying it, the actual flying of it, the maintenance.
Oh, yeah, but a
It's
Pilatus,
like 15,000 years.
Pilatus is not going to fly any real different, except it's got like a 3,000 foot per, or 9,000 foot per minute climb rate.
It's not a good item, but
Something
it's
insane.
public participation.
I can get close to right at 2,000 feet a minute. But I mean, I'm not going very fast. Climb that fast. I'm only doing like 70 at that point, 70 knots.
So,
No, I would not.
Okay, are we back in open session?
yes, sir, once you announce it,
Great,
it'll
thank
be
you.
all right.
Apologize.
Ed, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Just touch it with your, like this right here. Bill, just touch it with your flat of your finger. On top of it. On top of the, right there. Yeah. Yeah. do it.
Okay,
Do a Lori trailer thing.
time being 8:20, we are convened into open session. Town council will convene into open session and consider actions, if any, on items discussed in closed section. No action taken. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public participation. Jill Noller?
Hey, Clay. When you want to talk.
Dale Noller, Bartonville, Texas, 739 Seals. I have something I want to pass out here because we might not get done depending on how much I talk. Hand those out. Well, you probably all realize how important this ranch, the First Ranch situation is. And I thought I would relay what happened. I was on the council when we did the Tour 18 thing. And some of the things we did were pretty good, but hindsight tells me that there's some things we didn't do so well. And it'd been nice if we'd had somebody guiding us. And that brings up the second point. It's worth some money to hire you a qualified real estate and legal person to do something like this. For instance, big mistake we made was, yeah, we got two point some $2 million, but in turn for this, we sold it as a block. We should have said, okay, as these houses are built, we want to collect the tax on it for a period of time, each house, and not the block. And that would have, today, Flower Mound gets more money in 1 year than we got paid out of that. So if you can work it some way so that it's based on the progression, because their tax rate is, I don't know, was it $1.60 or 80 or something?
43.
$1.43?
No, 43. 43 cents
43 cents
Okay,
per 100.
Where we're
Okay.
19.
okay. So anyway, I'd suggest that you do get somebody involved in it that is acquainted with that type of thing and get you the best deal. So you can either sell it to Flower Mound, your ETJ, which we did, and you need to do it, like I was saying, whereas you have a period of time to work it out and not one block at one time. And then a second thing is obviously trade it for some land, which I'm sure you're considering, to make a larger barrier. And the third is do nothing, which is a little more dangerous. However, it could be to your advantage. If you wait, keep it, wait until the developer is built on your ETJ, and then at some point, they'll see, okay, Bartonville's 19 and Flower Mound's 43 ad valorem. Therefore, we can go ahead and be annexed into Bartonville. And then you keep it forever. But you also have to be responsible for it, obviously. But that is just a few of the suggestions or a combination of them. I don't know which way you want to go or a combination even. But I'm sure you thought of some other ways. So that's my suggestion, but don't rush to it like we did kind of. 6 months was rushing into it for us. And we didn't really, we could have done better. To the 2 million some, we probably got 6, to be honest about it. Those houses over there are selling for, the minimum is about $8 million. And some of them are 30 or 40 million. Well, it doesn't take too many of those with 100 houses, which was basically what was in our domain. We didn't realize that it'd be that expensive houses. So Flower Mound has done very well on Tour 18.
Great. Thank you, Dale. Do we have anyone on Zoom that wants to do public participation?
I do not see any hands raised. Your
Okay,
Honor.
great. Action items, discuss and consider approval of a resolution amending the order of that a special election schedule be to be held on Saturday, May 2nd, 2020, be postponed to November 3rd, 2020 by adopting certain amended procedures as ordered by the governor.
Mayor and Town Council, the governor came out with a proclamation which extended early voting to begin October 13th and ending October 30th. So it extended it another week. As you know, we were supposed to have an election in May for our sales tax election. We postponed that to the November 2nd election. So this resolution is adding that extended week into our resolution order, so we're in compliance.
Okay.
Tammy, also to add to that, it also is addressing a particular detail regarding mail-in ballots.
All right, do we have any discussion? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve agenda item 1.
Do we have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you, council. Item number 2, discuss and consider taking a record vote on a maximum tax rate of 0.192940 per 100 valuation for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021, and schedule the adoption of the ad valorem tax rate on September 15th, 2020 meeting to be held at 7 p.m. at Bartonville Town Hall located at 1941 East Jeter Road, Bartonville, Texas.
Mayor and Town Council, we did in July took a vote on a maximum tax rate, but due to all of the changes with the legislation, they changed it to where that vote has to be a record vote, and that's where we call roll. So this item had to be put back on the agenda for a roll call vote. So the motion, suggested motion is written out for you. And we just need to have this now that we received our rates from the tax assessor's office, and we'll try to go into a little bit of that information at the next meeting. But our proposed tax rate is less than the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate that were calculated.
And it's the same rate that it was last year and the year before and the year before.
And the year before.
Okay, any discussion? All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to move to approve a maximum tax rate of 0.192940 per $100 value for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2020 and ending September 30th, 2021, and scheduling the adoption of the ad valorem tax rate on September 15th, 2020, meeting to be held at 7 p.m. at Dallas Town Hall located at 1941 East Jeter Road, Bartonville, Texas.
At
Do we have a
Bartonville
second?
Town Hall.
Bartonville Town Hall?
What'd I say?
Dallas.
No way!
You did.
Sorry, let me amend my motion by saying Bartonville Town Hall
we have
located
a
at
second?
1941.
Okay, Tammy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Nelson? Yes. Councilmember Sands?
Yes.
Councilmember Carrington? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Trailer?
Yes.
Councilmember Phillips?
Yes.
All in favor, 0 against. And I'd just like to add a note that because our tax rate didn't exceed the no new revenue rate and the voter approval rate, that we no longer have to have a public hearing on the tax rate. But we do have to publish notice of the meeting. Crazy. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 3, discussion on town compensation policy. So can you go ahead and bring up the presentation? So a little bit of background on this. We've been fighting, discussing, anguishing over the whole process of compensation for years. It never gets any easier. We end up saying, okay, we're going to do this year, and we're going to do something. We'll pull folks together and we'll figure out what we're going to do for next year. I continue to have, we had the meeting last, the general meeting last month, continue to talk to the staff, work with some of the numbers. And what became obvious is we're doing it differently than what some of the other towns are doing. And we are holding all of the authority with us, as opposed to allowing the town staff and the town leadership to make some decisions to compensate staff based upon performance. So we're taking that opportunity away from our leaders to make those decisions and to deal with their staff accordingly. So, okay. Okay, for those of you that are on the Zoom, can you see the slides? Okay, perfect. Okay, so go to the next slide, please. So this is the high level performance that came out last month. It was a proposal for 10% pay raise across all of the officers in a STEP program. As I had conversations with Chief was not looking to raise everybody through all of those STEP programs, but potentially take people that are at step 4 and move them to step 2, because they still get a pay raise out of it, but he wasn't looking to give them 10% pay raises. So as we started going through this, I'm going, there is no STEP program. I mean, the reality is, if you're not going to march on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and call it done, then there is no STEP program, and there is no, quite frankly, pay for performance with a STEP program. You know, the longer you've been here, the more you get paid. The new guy could be doing better than you are, and yet you're still going to both see the same 3% pay raise as you march up the STEP program. And it doesn't solve the issue for us, because you still end up with the situation where you're now discussing what the STEP level should be every year and how do you want to go about doing that. So next slide. And this is just me going through and saying, okay, what if you did different than you know, a 10% raise? You looked at 3, 5, or potentially even 10. The issue you still run into is, what was Chief looking to achieve? Well, Chief was looking to achieve a higher starting salary, was one of the primary motivations. You don't get there unless you do the 10% pay raise, but then that means effectively a 13% pay raise before you fully burden it. And those are the numbers you see. You look right below. I went in there and added the calculations, everything else. So when you do a dollar pay raise, you're also increasing workman's comp, you're also increasing our Medicare costs, you're also increasing our retirement costs. So the ability to be able to show a fully burdened rate in there. So, where do you go from here? But again, you go back to, if the intention was, well, I've got step program, but I'm going to move folks around in it so that I can adjust and do pay for performance. Well, then let's go to a pay for performance system. Next slide. So kind of went down and said, hey, what are we all trying to achieve? So if you look at the council, we always have driven, the first thing always comes out of our mouth is fair compensation. We want to drive accountability, but we also want to be good stewards of public funds. Town administrator, you hear her conversations, and they're primarily wrapped around fair compensation. If you look at it, chiefs has been fair compensation, but there's a big piece of this, and some of this came out again in our meetings in between the last session and this, was to drive accountability, to allow him the flexibility of rewarding those officers that are doing better, and to a certain extent, the ones that are not doing as well may not do as well, but also to raise that starting salary. And if you look at it again, can we go back up to the first slide, please? So, oh, I'm sorry, second. So if we look at, as we take a look at the minimum salaries for most of the other departments, we're kind of below that. And if we look at where we're at, 55 puts us in very good stead across the board. It puts us higher than most of the towns are similar size, lower than a couple of others, but not by much, and gives a starting salary that, quite frankly, is in that number and in that ballpark to what we need to basically be able to hire. Even though we have not had significant difficulty hiring up to this point, this at least solves some of the issues that we've seen in the past.
But doesn't your chart show that the median is 51,911?
It is, but we also have to look at what is in our backyard that we're dealing with. Double Oak at 53, Argyle at 56.5. So we don't have Flower Mound up here. North Lake at 56. So again, if we look at what's in our neighborhood, 55 puts us in.
What puts us above?
It puts us a little bit above Double Oak,
Above Justin.
below North Lake, below Argyle, above Justin, and above some of the other smaller communities. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sorry, we're not into discussion yet. Sorry.
So, well, actually, this whole thing is a presentation and discussion. So please.
Oh, okay. So in general, you either maintain a high salary to blunt loss of employees, attrition, because you've had attrition. So you've decided that you've reached the threshold where you need to blunt that. So you raise your salaries to keep that from happening. Are we in that mode?
So I would tell you that my thought process when I put together was, while that started part of the conversation, was not looking at trying to chase. We have not had enough. We have an attrition of 1. We have not had enough systematic attrition that you can sit there and say we're way below where we're supposed to be. The question though is, how do we make it so that we are competitive with our local community?
Okay, okay. So we don't have attrition, right? And we haven't had trouble hiring officers. We added an officer and we lost an officer, and we filled those 2 positions pretty darn quick.
Warren wasn't quick, was he?
Warren walked into our office, he didn't even apply. So we were still looking when Warren walked in and showed up. So we didn't even have anybody to look at.
Yeah.
And that was roughly 4 months after we posted the job.
Yeah.
So that could have easily extended out to 6 months.
But was that the job, or did we end up filling the position that became vacant due to the one attrition? The timing there.
So the one attrition was, let me get these months right. So Lauren left in September of 19.
Okay.
Jessica came on November of 19. So that filled that one. Warren came in to fill the position that was given to us for that fiscal year, the extra position.
Okay.
Which was 6 months later, four, almost 5 months later. And both of those walked into the office. We had applicants that we did not want to hire.
Okay.
Both of those were referrals from other agencies. So, Warren's position could have, quite frankly, could have been who knows when, but he just happened to walk in. Exactly. And I think part of the reason for that is they see some of these numbers here and they, it doesn't look appealing to them. Because I can tell you that these officers are constantly recruiting each other. Some of these agencies around. I mean, that's just the way it is. And I would rather the shoe be on the other foot than wanting to work here versus us wanting to work there because of that. That's what it boils down to. At the end of the day, it comes down to that number right there. That's what, it's not about activity. It's not about the grass being greener on the other side. It comes down to finances. That's it.
I don't see, again, I have read 1,000 different salary surveys. If people feel like they're being paid fair, again, it could be less than the town next door, but if they think they're being fair, then it becomes an issue of where do they want to work and who do they want to work for. Again, I took the 55 number because I'm sitting there going, it seemed in a reasonable range, but again, this is for this council to make a final decision. But that's where that came from. Let me go ahead and finish the rest of this presentation, and then we'll go ahead and finish this conversation.
Okay, so go forward. One more. Okay, we talked this one. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so what am I recommending? So one of the things that we've done in here is, again, I've had the time because things have been a little bit slower than they normally are at work, which is about to change on Mondays, unfortunately. And so I'm going, let's take the time to take a look at this. So here's what I'm proposing. That the council authorizes pay ranges. We get rid of the step plan and provides a yearly budget. Now, if we look at what other towns do, Flower Mound is a standard, does it 3%. They authorize the town administrator to do 3% of the salaries of all the employees go into a bucket, and then that town administrator, through their subordinate leaders, distributes that 3%, meaning high performers may see 4%, lower performers may see 2%, substandard performers may see nothing. But you give the authority to those leaders to then make those decisions as to what they want to do. Now, as far as merit increases go, have to be here for more than 4 months at the start of the year. And if you're there less than a year, you do it prorated. Again, I'm doing what standard corporate America. If staff hits the maximum salary, then that does not necessitate that we have to then raise the ranges, but it may be instead of them getting, if the decision was made, well, I would have given them a 3% pay raise, well, maybe they get a 3% bonus. They just get a check for that 3% amount. It doesn't change their pay raise for the next year, but they do get benefit for that. Again, as we kind of talked before, if you look at corporate America, very seldom, I have never been at the max of my pay range for any job that I've ever held in corporate America. Josh? So, again, normally you won't see that, but wanted to cover all the bases. Town administrator manages the distribution of the salary budget. So the town administrator is given a salary budget. She then decides the pay raise for the town secretary and the chief of police. The chief of police is then given a budget for his officers that he then distributes based upon their evaluations and how they move forward. The only question I had on this was, what do we, how do we want to monitor it? Do we want to monitor it? What do we want to do with that? And again, I left it out there as a question. And then the council then determines the pay raise for the town administrator. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is my recommendation? Okay, at this juncture, implement what we just mentioned, abolish the step plan. Okay, let's get down to a merit-based system going forward. Increase the starting salary. Again, we can decide what that number is, but then raise the 2 officers to that starting salary. So I went in and did the calculations. If you took the 2 officers that are below that number today, and this is fully burdened, so this includes salary, retirement, workers' comp, and Medicaid, it's going to cost $9,000. And then for the rest of the officers, they're in the pool. So those 2 officers get raised to 55. They're not part of the percentage pool. That's their pay raise for this year. The other officers are part of a percentage pool that the chief then gets to decide how he wants to do it. Bonus for the town secretary. She covers coverage when the town administrator was not here and is in the process of training the new town administrator. And then we set what we want the pay raise to be. So went and talked to Argyle, Double Oak, and Flower Mound. Flower Mound normally does 3% distributed to their town administrator. This year they're doing nothing because their tax revenue is significantly down. Argyle's doing 2.5%. Double Oak's doing 3%. Double Oak though does it where it pretty much turns out to be 3% for everyone. Now, I'd say the thing that we talk is the budget for salaries. But just wanted to recognize the fact that there is an additional burden of 21.5% because of retirement, Medicare, and workers' comp. Again, this is more of a complete visibility of discussions than it is. I don't want us trying to figure out all of these numbers. Again, we focus on whatever we want to set the salary increases on average to be for the organization, and then allow the staff to flow that down. And that is the last slide. Thoughts?
So when you raise the salary of the 2 officers up to the 55, when you do the 3%, their salaries aren't in that 3%.
Correct, they are not.
Okay. I think it looks from this to be a reasonable consideration.
It's what I'm used to. So
Yeah.
this was nothing new. I think it's fair. I think your question around how do we monitor, I think is a question we have to answer. But in terms of recommendations, this is what I'm used to. So, but again, maybe different in other places, but I think it's solid.
Okay. The only item that is still open out of this is the pay ranges. So we can do a couple of different things. I can work a proposal. We can take a couple of council members to work it between now and the next meeting.
I think 3 of you should.
2.
You, Josh, and Jack. Finish what you started.
Is that acceptable to you two? Okay. Great. All right, very good. Time being 8:49, we are adjourned. Thank you, council, and thank you, members of the community.
All right, good seeing y'all. Talk to you later.
Bye, Ed.